Is it going to be party time in Perth? Is Stennismuir's championship dream fading away? And how is Serie A's newest Scot getting on? Hello, I'm David Currie and this is the Scottish Football Podcast. All the news, views, analysis and a wee bit more you need on Tuesday the 21st of April. Is that the date upon which St Johnstone seal their return to the Premiership?
Oh, 3-0 St Johnstone. What a game this is. This has been fantastic. I think it's Rudy Payton again. They look like a championship winning side.
A win tonight and the Sainties can book the open top bus. But they face a Dunfermline side on a high from their Hampden heroics.
We can't come off it, because when you come off it you lose your impetus and you lose your energy and you lose your spark. So got to play hard professional football from now to the end of the season.
And how are the promotion battles going in Leagues 1 and 2? And we'll catch up with how a Scotland World Cup hopeful is doing in Italy.
I think anyone that's from Scotland and a player that's represented Scotland, they'll be lying if they said they didn't want to be on the plane in the summer.
We are a stappet full of Scottish football goodness this fine morning.
The Scottish Football Podcast from BBC Sports Scotland.
Welcome one and all to the Scottish Football Podcast with today's extra special guest, Craig Telfer from A View from the Terrace podcast presenter, TV show, and also musician. I caught you, Craig. I caught you in a video for a World Cup song.
That's right. My brother has written a song for the World Cup. It's called Scotland's on the Way. I played the bass guitar on it. A couple of our other friends recorded and produced it. And it's up on YouTube.
Oh, no plugs. Right, and also another very special guest this morning, Ryan Flynn, our Broth midfielder, preparing. Ryan, congratulations! You're preparing for the playoffs.
Yeah, eventually got over the line there. Obviously, 3 defeats just before that, but no, delighted. 2 games to spare, and we'll look forward to the playoffs when they come.
You're very low key. You're not getting carried away, as they say.
No, I mean it's been a successful season.
It certainly has. Craig, he is underplaying this, eh?
I think it's been an absolutely phenomenal season for our Broth. I think that for a lot of people, when they got promoted, I think an 8th place finish they'd have been delighted with that. But to have pretty much been in the playoffs for the large part of the season, it's a huge achievement. And I think there might have been a wee bit of a wobble towards the latter couple of weeks there, but that win against Wraith Rovers has been absolutely enormous, and it caps a brilliant season. And Ryan can just put his feet up for the next couple of weeks and then kick on in the playoffs. And I'll look forward to chatting him when he's a Premiership footballer again.
Oh,
brilliant times.
Happy days for St Johnstone so far as well in the Championship. They can seal the deal tonight if they get the better of Dunfermline at East End Park in that one. The Sainties, Ryan, they've led pretty much from the off, putting down a marker with that big win over Partick Thistle, and they've stayed there. Are you surprised that they've led from the front pretty much all season?
I probably thought it was going to be a 2-horse race, but obviously with Ross County at the start of the season, it obviously hasn't shaped up that way. I think the 2-horse race with Partick Thistle has just been a massive credit to Partick Thistle and Mark Wilson's team of the way they've went about it. 2 good teams playing fantastic football throughout the whole season. But no, St Johnstone thoroughly deserve this. They will, for me, get over the line. I'm not 100% sure they'll get over the line tonight. Dunfermline obviously coming back off at the weekend. The bounce, I'm just thinking people think be emotionally tired, mentally drained. But as a player, there's nothing better than playing games and big games. If it was maybe a more low-key game, I could maybe feel that mentality shift can come and you're not up for the game. But they're going from that high at Hampden. This game at East End Park, the home fans are going to be up. St Johnstone fans they're talking over 2,500 tickets have sold from their end. That could be higher by the time the kickoff comes. It's a game you want to play in, and I just think the momentum and everything. Listening to Neil Lennon's interviews, their tails are up. They've got the bit between the teeth. they'll not want the party to be at East End Park tonight.
So Ryan then, Craig's going for the Hampden High rather than the Hampden Hangover.
I think that's for a Dunfermline perspective. It's because I think their place within the top four isn't 100% guaranteed. I think a victory tonight over St Johnstone, that would pretty much seal their place in the promotion playoffs. I think on top of that as well, Neil Lennon will not want a title party in his back garden. I think that will be the message. It's like, we do not want to see another team celebrating at East End Park. It'd be just interesting to see how he plays it. You know, we saw the game against Airdrieonians this time last week where Dunfermline went into it and they pretty much played a lot of youth players, and obviously with the cup in mind. I don't know if they might do the same here. That was a tiring 120 minutes against Falkirk on Saturday, and I'm not sure if you'll want to risk players that maybe might have a wee niggle. I think it's going to be a great game though. The games between St Johnstone and Dunfermline have been really good. Going back to earlier in the season, a 2-1 win for St Johnstone. It was on the BBC Scotland channel. That was a brilliant game of football. Really entertaining stuff. And it had not been for a world-class save at the end from Toby Stewart, Dunfermline would have taken something from it. And interestingly enough, the last time St Johnstone actually lost in the league, it was against Dunfermline. So there's a lot of intrigue riding on this for both teams. But I was watching Simo Valakari's interview previewing this match, and he said it's like pressure is a privilege.
I like that.
The message. He said that a number of times. He said that a number of times throughout the interview. And I watched Liam Smith's pre-match interview as well, and they're just really, really excited. They're trying to treat this like a normal game of football and trying not to be distracted by the outside noise and what's at stake. I think that's going to be difficult, but I think this is a game that the St Johnstone players will be absolutely relishing. So really, really looking forward to seeing this one.
And Craig mentioned there that the head-to-head, it was a win in January for the Pars in Perth, and there was a draw before that, and then St Johnstone won the first game at McDermott Park, so it's pretty even.
They're two good sides. It probably speaks volume that 8 of the 11 and Team of the Year have came from these two clubs. There's going to be high quality on show. As Craig says, maybe a little bit of tiredness throughout the game, but hopefully that comes later on. Sometimes with tiredness, there's mistakes and goals, so we'll definitely be watching for that point of view. I do remember the 2-2 game. There was limbs everywhere in the away end at East End Park. That was some spectacle. Sorry. So no, it's going to be a good game. It's a perfect game for everyone for the neutral to watch. That's for sure. I can see it being a score draw again. Both clubs probably being satisfied with the point in the end, but certainly goals is definitely what I'll be predicting tonight.
You'll not be a neutral tonight though. You'll be wanting St Johnstone to win just to keep a wee cushion in terms of the third place finish.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, from a personal point of view, I would like to stay third, but I don't think in the grand scheme of things it really matters. I think at the start of the season, if somebody says we were going to be in the playoffs, I think we would have took it. Nobody can get second, third or fourth. Obviously, you want to finish third, but whatever happens will happen. We've got Dunfermline last game of the season as well.
You have? I don't know, and then you'll have to play them another couple of times. Yeah,
so that's when it gets to that stage, maybe you've got one eye on the playoffs, but before then, it's two good teams. What will be, will be. We've got the 3 points on the board. Maybe Dunfermline will make that up tonight, but we'll watch tonight and see what happens.
Let's just make the assumption, shall we, gentlemen, that St Johnstone do seal the deal tonight and they're Premiership bound. In terms of next season, are they Premiership ready, Craig, do you think? Do they need to do a wee bit of restructuring, rebuilding?
Just on that, I think that when we talk about, I'm going back 12 months here when St Johnstone were relegated, and I think a team never likes to be relegated. You always want to be playing at the highest position possible. And I think that a lot of people say, relegation might be a good thing, and it never is the case. But I actually do think relegation has been a good thing for St Johnstone. And what I mean by that is they've been circling the drain for a couple of seasons now, a couple of bad managerial appointments. They didn't really build on that League and Cup double they had. And I think since Timo Valakari's come in, I think you saw glimpses last season of what he was capable of and what he could do. It's just he really has blossomed into just a very charismatic figure. This season he seems to have the players behind him. He's rebuilt the connections between the club and the supporters, and I do think they are returning to the Premiership in a greater place than they were previously. I think that there's some really good players there who I really think could kick on next season. I'm really keen to see how Josh Fowler, for instance, might get on with a full pre-season under his belt at St Johnstone and what he might be like in the Premiership. Be interested to see if they could keep a hold of Rudy Payton. Got 2 goals against Airdrie last time out. So I think that maybe a wee bit of surgery, as is what happens all the time when teams make the jump up from one level to another. But I do think sort of like culturally they're in a better place than they were this time last year.
Ryan, would you say will they be able to do a Falkirk next season and avoid a Levy?
No, that's probably great points from Craig about the culture, and it's John McGlynn managed to build that over a couple of seasons, and then there's that belief, and then you add a few gems from maybe down south or wherever else, just to supplement the quality that's already within the team. That's probably the model that they'll look for, especially the brand of football that they do play. It's free-flowing football from the back, looking to control games, control the tempo. John McGunn's side have managed to do it. People always tend to say you can't do it. It's great to see Falkirk do it, and Simo Valakari will see that one eye, get the job done, and then look to emulate what John McGlynn's done in the Premiership.
That's an interesting thing Ryan says there, Craig. A few gems from down south. Should they not be scouring the Scottish scene for a few gems up here?
I think it's at the stage where you can basically take players from anywhere you can find. I think that's something that St Johnstone have done well this season. If you think of two of the players like Josh Fowler, they brought him in from Queen's Park. He was at the time, I think, the best player in the Championship. But like Cheick Diabate, I think he came from Exeter. And I think at the beginning of the season, you're like, my goodness, where on earth does this guy come from? I think his form's tailed off a wee bit as we've gone into the latter part of the season. But to begin with, you're like, my goodness, what a player. So I think it's just a case of, I don't think there's a bias to like Scottish football or the English lower leagues. If Simo Valakari has the kind of players in mind and the players can fit a certain profile, I don't think he'll care if they come from the Scottish leagues, the Chinese leagues, the New Zealand leagues. It's all about whatever best for St Johnstone, whatever that may be.
Brilliant. And do you think Ryan that he'll change his playing style for a season in the Premiership?
Definitely not. I think in the main they have always played the free-flowing football. I actually credited them massively when they came up to Gayfield recently in 1-4-2. It was more a roll up your sleeves, hard-working performance due to the wind, due to the conditions, due to the pitch. They done what was needed to win that game, and I also think that's a sign of champions, and probably the bit that they've maybe changed over the course of the season, that they maybe now have that within their setup now. But no, I think in the main it'll be the same philosophy from Simo Valakari, and the players buy into it. They're together. The game tonight is two teams that emulate their managers, and that's a massive credit to both managers at either football club.
We'll just round this wee part of the discussion off then. Folks, I'll just ask you how you think it'll go tonight. Craig, you first.
A 2-1 victory for St Johnstone, but I think they're going to have to work really hard for it.
Very precise there from Craig. Ryan?
I'm going score draw. I'm going to go the same time as East End Park, 2-2.
2-2. Fantastic. Let's move on then, folks, and talk Leagues 1 and 2. League 1 first of all. Craig, is the dream slowly dying of automatic promotion for Steny?
No, the dream of automatic promotion is very much still there, but we'll need a massive help from East Fife and from Hamilton Academical, who are Inverness Caledonian Thistle's next opponents. I've got to say, I think the fair play, first of all, to Cali Thistle. I thought last week could not have gone any better for them. Watched their game against Peterhead on Tuesday night on BBC Alba, and I thought they were excellent. Really, really impressive in that match. They won that game 2-0, but that could have been 7-0. Some of the chances they missed at the start of that second half, if it finished with a huge scoreline, it would would not have been flattering to. It would not have sort of flattered the scoreline. And then they went at their best against Kelty Hearts, scored a scrappy goal with Paul Allen scoring directly from a corner, but they did just enough to squeak by. And then, unfortunately, Stennismuir turning one of their poorest performances this season against Cove Rangers. So it's opened up that 4-point gap. Cali Thistle can win the division if they beat East Fife on Saturday. But from Stennismuir's perspective, I'm thinking of Gary Naismith's post-match interview where he said, it's going to be very difficult for the Warriors. They just need to make sure they bounce back against Alloa Athletic on Saturday. So I'll be there at Oakville View, and I'm hoping to see the Wawas get the 3 points. But I appreciate it's going to be very difficult to see anyone other than Cali Thistle lifting the title at this stage.
Yeah, the dream's still alive. What happened then against Cove? You said it was one of the worst performances of the season. How do you account for that?
I wasn't there. I was down at Annan Athletic at Hospitality for their game against the Spartans. And
prawn sandwiches at Annan.
Oh, they do a charcuterie board.
Come on!
Which I've never seen anything like that. So I wasn't there, but going by the highlights, the Gary Naismith's post-match interview, comments online, and my friends who were all there, they all said the same thing. Just Cove Rangers. We're sort of talking about Stennismuir. Cove Rangers were excellent in this game. Adam Emsley scored a really good goal early on to put them up. Mitch Megginson got another about around the hour mark. Both quite poorly defended from a Stennismuir's perspective, but I think a lot of the credit has to go to Cove. Chris Maguire in the middle of the park, Blair Ewell just dominated the match there. And I think I've said it before in this podcast that Cove Rangers might be in a lowly league position, but they're nowhere near as bad a team as their league form suggests. Even if you just look at their scorelines over the course of the season, when they lose, it's only by the odd goal. Very rarely have Cove Rangers been completely outplayed this season, and this was one of the moments where Cove were at their maximum and Stenhousemuir weren't. And the consequences of that is you lose at the most inopportune time, and all the advantage, or an even greater advantage, has been handed to Cali Thistle.
Do you have charcuterie at Gayfield, Ryan? After the game, is that?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Sorry. No, it's just the usual.
Okay.
For us,
pizza. So it's Cove against Kelty on Saturday. That is a huge match, isn't it?
It is. I think it's probably too little too late for Kelty with a little charge that they've tried to mount at the end of the season. But down at the bottom of the league with Cove, East Fife now sucked really into the mix, and Hamilton and Cove are the ones that are picking up points. East Fife are just hanging in there from the points that they've gained throughout the season, really. I think the massive game will be Hamilton versus Peterhead, and that late goal from Queen of the South sort of broke the spirits of Peterhead. They've got nothing to really play for, so that would be an interesting game if Hamilton can win that. You've got East Fife playing Inverness, where I'd imagine Inverness I think they'll get the job done. I think they'll win the league this weekend. It'll be all to play for in that final fixture, which is actually East Fife are playing Cove, I'm sure. So it will be an interesting end to the season at the bottom end of the table for the League One side.
Certainly an interesting season for Hamilton, Craig. They've got Peterhead, as Ryan mentioned there, on Saturday. Then their final game is away to Inverness. If Accies could somehow get out of the mess they're in and survive this season, I mean, that is a remarkable story given the points deductions, dangerously flirting with going completely out of business, new owners.
If Hamilton Accies can get something against Inverness Caledonian Thistle, I will drive up to Inverness and high-five Darren McKinnon myself for a job well done. I've got to say though, you're right, it has been a funny season for them. I think I can't even imagine what it's like to go through that as a player. Try to concentrate on just playing football when there's all this going on about your club, your employers maybe going out of business. Talk about wages might not be paid on time. That must be really difficult, and it's something that I think John Rankin deserves enormous credit for, was holding that group of players together over the early part of the season. Danny McKinnon has done that to perhaps a slightly lesser degree. However, recent results have given them a real fighting chance at the bottom of the table. I would expect them to beat Peterhead on Saturday. I think that the Blue Toon, that defeat against Cali Thistle in midweek, we mentioned, I think that really knocked the wind out of their sails there. And then drawn, it was a bit of a far chance of them getting into the top four anyway. But the draw against Queen of the South has completely neutered any chances they've got there. So nothing to play for. Whereas Accies have still got it all in front of them. I'd seen them earlier in the season. They were beaten 3-0 by the Warriors just a couple of weeks ago, and I thought Accies were really poor in that match. So I think a lot of credit to them that they've been able to beat Alloa, been able to beat Montrose, and they are building that little bit of momentum at the right time. I think if I had to pick a bottom two, I think I'm going to go for, East Fife and Kelty Hearts. That's my shoot prediction for that.
Well, plenty to play for then in League One, plenty to play for in League Two. At the top, Ryan, we've got East Kilbride a point ahead of Spartans with a couple of games to go. This one, it looks as though this is going to be, I was going to say a helicopter Saturday or Friday or whenever the final game is, but maybe a drone, maybe get a drone with the trophy.
Could be that DC, but it was like probably what you expected at the weekend. A convincing win for East Kilbride. Obviously, Craig will know a lot more about Spartans' victory, but it did seem very convincing, and it's going to go a little bit further. I do think it could be a bit of a banana skin for East Kilbride this weekend against Dumbarton. I think that'll be a tricky tie. I think they'll be looking to bounce back after it was a poor performance after a 9 games undefeated for Dumbarton, and I think they'll be looking to, although the season's tailing off, they've got nothing to play for, there's just that personal pride, and if you can make a dent in a title party or a title challenge, players and teams will look to do that. So I think that'll be the interesting game of the weekend, because I think Spartans being at home against Elgin, I think they'll get the job done. So that this could be the one. I think if East Kilbride win this weekend and then they've got the home game at the end of the season, I think they'll be the ones that will get over the line. So it'll all be to play for this weekend, I feel.
Edinburgh City, Craig, well and truly below the line. Their goose has long since been cooked.
I think we've known that for a while. I think that if you go back about 6 months, Ryan and I were effusive that Edinburgh City would pull themselves out of this position and finish in the promotion playoffs. We got that one wrong. Probably the only thing that we've actually got wrong on this podcast. Very rare for Ryan and I to make an incorrect.
It's all been documented across the course of the season. Been presented to you the final week.
But I suppose that for Edinburgh, you know, that Michael McIndoe, like 12 months ago, I was lauding him as one of the best coaches in Scotland. I think that what he's tried to do since the January transfer window, completely like modifying the Edinburgh City squad, it hasn't worked. They lose goals on an industrial scale. I think that's in their last 12 matches, they've only scored in one of them, and that was a 4-1 over Stranraer. And this match here against East Kilbride, regardless of who they were putting out, it was always going to be a difficult game for them because they had so many injuries. I think they ended up 9 academy players played over the course of the game. They actually had to sign an emergency loan goalkeeper from Gallifreydine because of injuries to Mark Weir and Enzo Marinovic. So it was there's makeshift squads and there's this, but I think that on the whole, McIndoe was quite happy with how the players applied themselves in very difficult circumstances against the best team in the division. So for him, I think it's just a case of the players will be back for next week. He said that in his post-match interview. He should have something that more resembling an Edinburgh City squad next week. And it's just a case of trying to build across these 2 games, bit of momentum, bit of confidence, going into what's going to be a very difficult fixture against Brora Rangers in the Pyramid Playoff.
Finally, folks, let's talk about how Kieron Bowie, remember him, how he's doing in Italy. Couple of goals, he scored 2 in the last 5 and 5 of his 9 appearances for Verona. They're looking doomed to Serie B, are 10 points, I think it is, 10 points behind a survival spot with 5 games to go. It's not quite worked out, maybe, Ryan, how we would have hoped.
I mean, maybe not from a team perspective. I think it's maybe from his point of view, it could be a short-term loss for a long-term gain, making this move to Italy. I just remember at the start of the season, I feel like he's a big game player, and those European qualification games at the start of the season for Hibs, I thought he was tremendous. He scored a crucial goal against Hearts as well in a derby, in a 3-2 victory that Hibs fans will remember fondly. And then he's made that jump across. It's obviously a level above, as in league-wise. And I think obviously it could get relegated, and you never know what will happen. But I just applaud him for actually going and taking that jump across to Italy and really challenging himself. It's going to be difficult that ways. I just feel like it's sort of out of sight, out of mind. You've got Barney Stewart now that a lot of
we're moving on to the World Cup already.
Yeah, sort of like for the World Cup, and I just feel like Kieron Bowie has he lost that sort of that hype around him, that he's out of sight, out of mind, and it might not short-term loss for a long-term game. I feel for him in his long-term career.
I mean, he scored at the weekend, Craig, scored against Torino. He's got, as I mentioned there, 2 goals and 5. And you look at Steve Clarke's squad and you don't need to be scoring goals as a striker to get in it.
The goal against Torino was brilliant as well. That is Kieron Bowie at his very best, sort of back to goal, nudging the defender out the way and then clean through and goal. A very expertly taken finish to get his side an equaliser in a game that they ultimately lost. I think that Ryan's right. I think when he joined Verona, he knew it was going to be a difficult challenge because they were down at the wrong end of the table there, and they're 10 points from safety, 15 left to play for. So it's quite, it's not impossible, but likely he's going to be playing Serie B football next season with the club. I think on the whole, it's a good move for him. I like seeing players go out of their comfort zone a little bit and try something different. And I read a really interesting interview with him in the Hibs Observer where he was talking about his friendship with Josh Doig, and Josh encouraged him to go over and try Italy. He moved to Verona, now he's playing at Sassuolo. So I think that with a pre-season behind him, a season, yes, albeit at a lower tier, he can hopefully lead Verona back into Serie A if they do indeed get relegated, and then he'll be in a better place. So maybe it's a step back. Maybe he does miss out on the World Cup. But I think that there's no doubt in my mind that Kieron Bowie will be a Scotland international going forward. He's got all the qualities of Lyndon Dykes, but he's just a slightly more refined in how he goes about it. I think Lyndon Dykes is just quite a chaotic player, fun player, one of my favourite Scotland players. But I think the stuff that Bowie does is just a little bit more orthodox, with a little bit of chaos in there as well. Do
you agree with what Ryan was alluding to there? He's maybe dropping down the pecking order, out of sight, out of mind, Scotland-wise?
I think it's going to be difficult for a lot of the other Scotland strikers. I think we know who the principal two are. It's Shea Adams and Lyndon Dykes. You probably say Lauren Shankland as the third choice. Yeah. And I think after that, David, I think you could probably make the case for maybe like 5 or 6 different players. You talk about Barney Stewart, maybe Ross Stewart. You could maybe say Ollie Burke, Ollie McBurney, all guys like that who seem to be having reasonable seasons. So I think that he might miss out on a World Cup spot, but he'll definitely be a Scotland international going forward. No doubt about that.
Well, folks, I'm afraid that's all we've got time for today. Many, many thanks to Craig and Ryan and to you for listening. Remember, we're here with new episodes of the Scottish Football Podcast, bright, breezy and early every day. So to make sure you don't miss out, subscribe on BBC Sounds and have push notifications turned on in your phone. I'll leave you all to go about your business, folks. I'm popping down to Annan to see if I can get my hands on some of that charcuterie. Enjoy your football tonight if you can.
It's petty, it's ill-informed.
Are President Trump's cuts having an adverse effect on research?
It's pandemonium.
What number's that in the periodic table?
PD, number 47. I don't know.
I've done the shooting clays before. The longer you do it, the sorer obviously it gets.
When Craig said there he'd been shooting the clays, I imagined him out a back line. Somebody's washing,
William Shatner, his secretary, contacted me to say, when Bill has a question now and again, can he contact you? And then one time he called me up and he wanted to know, David, what is a photon? I'm thinking, this is incredible. Captain Kirk wants to know what a photon is,
I once met a guy who referred to a globe as a bomb app. A ball map.
A ball map.
Look at the ball map. What we normally do is spin the ball map and we see where we go on holiday.
The Off the Ball podcast, available every Monday on BBC Sounds.